Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Well, today it's the beginning of the month, so that means it's a new theme for Let's Play. Now keep in mind that the themes for Let's Play are really letting you know what I'm going to be working on throughout the whole month, but of course any play that you do can be about anything that you want, so feel free to share any of your play in the link party, not just things that are along the theme. So what am I going to do this month? This month, I'm going to freak out my inner hoarder, inner collector. I really like to buy things. I love when there are new products. I love the possibilities. And then sometimes I hoard them because I want to save them for that perfect project, the right project, just the perfect thing. And what that means is it never gets used. So I want to get that part of me to let go. So one of the ways that I do that when I'm spring cleaning like I have been here in the States with the beautiful weather, I've got some stuff that is just way too old in the drawers in my studio. It's time to use it or lose it. Now what this means is either I have to use it in this play session or I have to get rid of it. Now if it's something that's donatable and somebody else could use, then I'm going to donate it on. But the truth is, after you've half used something, very few places really want that. So that means this might go in the trash. So my choice for the most part is use it or throw it away, which I gotta tell you, really freaks out that inner hoarder in me. And that's how I'm gonna get that part of me to let go and just let me play. So here are the supplies I'm gonna be using up today. I'm going to be using these mistables, it's crepe paper ribbon kind of things from Tattered Angels and Heidi Swap, and great patterns, 2009. Yeah, these came from 2009. It's time for me to use those up. And then I've got this art journal here that I started doing stuff in and then sort of abandoned it, haven't done a whole lot with it. So it's time to just use these things up. Now the rule I'm going to be playing by is use it or lose it. If I don't use it up, I have to donate it or throw it away. And the reality is a half-used journal and some partially used mistables are not something really donatable. So that means I'm going to have to throw them away, and that feels like such a crime. So what am I going to use to color these with? Well, I'm going to start out by experimenting around with some color bursts with them. Now color bursts work, they're activated by water. You can put the water on first like I'm doing here and then sprinkle on the powder, or you can put the powder on and then the water. I'm going to play around with it both ways and see which one works best for me with this supply because, it really kind of depends what you're doing. I'm going to spread the color around just a little bit with a brush because, well, this is crepe paper and this is water, and maybe a brush might not have been the best answer since it's almost kind of like working with wet tissue paper. It's a little bit stronger than that, but what I wanted with this is I wanted a different kind of mottled look to it. I didn't want it to just be one solid bit of color, and that's what the color burst is going to do for me. Wherever I've got more of the powder, there's going to be a darker clump of color. And that's what I want. I want some variety. I don't want it to look absolutely perfectly done, machine done. Now this time I'm actually going to go on dry. So the powder's going on to the dry tissue paper, crepe paper, you know what I mean by that. And then I'm going to hit it with some water. And as I hit it with the water, I'm actually using an ample amount of water. So much so that apparently I've used up all the water that's in my sprayer. So I'm putting a little more water in that and I'm going to be right back. Okay, so it's fully loaded, and now I'm going to hit it with that water. You can see how that powder just comes alive. I think I like it better putting it on the dry crepe paper and then hitting it with water for the way I want to use it. Now, does that mean that's the only way it can be used? Oh, absolutely not, because there really aren't a whole lot of rules to this. So I'm going to kind of smear that around in the color. I've sort of got this soup of green going there, and I'm just going to pick up little bits of color here and there. So now it's time to do some other colors. This one I'm going in for the wonderful pinkish color, and I'm putting it on dry, and then I'm going to hit it with the water. And I like to use a lot of water. Very clearly, I like a lot of water because I want this stuff running around so I can move it so that it'll end up being darker in some places and lighter in others. Now, one of the things I've learned when using color burst is if you do different colors right next to each other, there is some contamination of that, and that's exactly what I want here. I do not want this to look perfectly one color and then another. I absolutely want some of that darker green to show up in this one. And you can see there are just little hints of it, flecks of it, nothing crazy or loud, but just little bits of it because every little granule that comes out of that little dispenser pops out with a whole lot of color when it gets wet. Now on that one, notice I'm even overlapping them. So I'm going to actually get them to bleed onto each other. I'm going to put some orange on this one, and I definitely want some of that orange and pink to work together. They're going to look great together, And it's just going to give me some variation because what I didn't want was a completely uniform coloring of this. Well, I've taken the wet ones out of the way and I'm setting them off to dry because there's a lot of water on them. That's one of the drawbacks of me using so much water is I have to wait for them to dry. But I've got to use up the rest of this stuff or else I have to throw it away. And that idea of throwing it out, that use it or lose it, is just hard for my soul to handle. So I've just got to find a way to get this on here somehow. So I'm going to take some of this crepe paper and I am going to put it down with some fluid matte medium, basically a runny glue, to kind of collage it down. Of all the pages that I'm doing here today, this is the one I actually like the least. This one we could call an oops. Now, is it a mistake? Is it a horrifying page? Am I going to beat myself up because frankly it stinks at this point? Absolutely not. I'm going to look at this as an oops, an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. I have no idea what this page is going to become, but it's nowhere near finished. And after all, this is mixed media, so I can just slap some more layers on it. I have to say though, I think there's going to be a lot of good texture in this that I can build on later. But right now, my goal is to use up that crepe paper because if I don't use it up, I'm going to have to throw it away. And again, that's a crime to my soul to throw something like this away, especially since I was really excited when I bought it and I wanted to save it for that right project, which by the way, never really came along. So I'm glad that I'm at least using it up. I'm freeing up some space in my studio and I'm getting some time to play. And I'm an impatient soul that doesn't like to wait for things to dry. And here I've put a whole lot of wet glue onto this page and I need to use up the rest of this crepe paper or else I have to throw it away. So I'm going to put a piece of wax paper here on this page. That way I can close the book, turn to another page, work on that. So I've got a lot of this stuff to use up. So what am I going to do? I think I'm going to go ruffles because if I just go little bit by little bit, it's going to take forever. And again, I'm very impatient when I play. So I'm testing out the look of a ruffle and yeah, it's totally going to work for me and it's going to use a ton of this stuff up quickly. That's where I'm going. So I put a strip of double-sided adhesive on there, some kind of basically tape, and then I am just pinching it on there, not being very careful at all, hoping that it all works out, that I get to about the right size at the end. And here's the thing, as I was doing it, there's sticky stuff still showing. So was that a mistake? Yeah, I guess you could call it that. I'm going to call it an oops. And what that is, the opportunity for me is to put another layer on there. So I put more on there and maybe this time I'll notice more of where the tape is. But let's not go crazy here and think I might try and prevent the same kind of thing from happening again. I've got that second layer on there and guess what? Yes, indeed, there's still some tape that's sticky there. But I don't want to do a whole third piece on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some scraps from that other one and I'm just going to kind of stick it along the top. And it actually looks a lot better to me having a third pattern on there, but I didn't have to do the whole third ruffle. So, yep, thanks again, Oops, for giving me an idea that I hadn't even thought of. Well, I've still got more stuff to use up, so I've got to figure out how else I'm going to do that. But before I can get to that, the urge to cover over some of these creams and browns is just too strong. So I grabbed some white paint and I am just putting it all over that. If I get the urge to add something somewhere, by all means when I'm playing, I am going to listen to and follow that. But there's still a whole lot more that I have to put into this art journal because I've still got a whole bunch of that crepe paper to use up. And again, if I don't use it up, it's going to be tossed out. So another piece of wax paper in here because I'm not going to wait for that paint to dry. And now it's time to figure out where to put the next sheet. Well, I wanted to see how the colored ones work, and I gotta say, I probably should have waited until they were completely dry. But I just couldn't wait that long, so I'm gonna go with it, and I'm gonna bunch them up and do the ruffling in the same technique of just kind of sticking them on to that dry tape. And again, wet things don't always stick to dry adhesives, but anyway, it worked well enough for me. Now, if I'm going to keep doing all these ruffles and I keep having the problem of not being able to see the tape when I'm doing this, I'm going to do something to help myself out so that I can see where it is. I'm going to put a great big old index card right along the line of the tape, so that'll solve the problem. Oh no, wait, every time I move my hand I bump it and it moves. And really, like, I need a perfectly straight ruffle across here. So what if a little adhesive is sticking up? That's going to be an opportunity for me to stick some other tissue paper, crepe paper on top of it. Well, I don't want to keep you in suspense any longer because I know you're on the edge of your seat just wondering, is she going to have to throw any of this away? Is she going to make it? Is she going to use all this stuff? And the answer is yes, I do end up using it all. I'm not throwing big portions of it away. And along the way, what I'm doing is actually adding a lot of dimension to my art journal. I love it when an art journal gets thick and big and all that kind of stuff. And having this roughly tissue paper, crepe paper in here does that very, very quickly for me. This art journal that has been sitting there, sort of languishing, ignored for a very long time, all of a sudden is very exciting to me again. So exciting that I think I'm going to add to this next week in the next Let's Play video. And I'm just going to keep use it or losing it with my supplies in here and seeing where this thing goes. And if you want to know what I do to this journal next and what supply I'm going to use it or lose it with, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. That way you'll be sure to know as soon as that video goes live. And of course you can stop over at the blog at acolorfuljourney.com, where you can of course find the blog post for this, as well as the Let's Play link party. Because this is my play for today, and I'd love to see what you're playing with. What are you creating? What are you making? And the link party is for any play, not just things related to this theme. And should you decide that you want to use up something and you want a place to share what you've created, absolutely share that in the link party. But just know that any and all play is welcome inside the Let's Play link party. And as a bonus for sharing what you're making, you get a bonus entry into the $50 gift certificate giveaway that's done every month for Let's Play. You can find out all the details about that again over on the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey.